The episode opens beyond the wall in the frozen wasteland far north of the Seven Kingdoms. We meet 3 rangers of the Night's Watch, Will, Gerd, and their leader, Waymar Royce. They're investigating reports of wildlings in the area. This opening sequence is crucial because it immediately establishes that this world contains supernatural elements alongside its political drama. The Rangers discover the mutilated corpses of wildlings arranged in a disturbing pattern. When Will returns to show Royce, the bodies have mysteriously vanished. Suddenly, they're attacked by the White Walkers, mysterious ice creatures that will become central to the series' mythology. Royce attempts to fight, but is quickly killed. Will flees in terror, and this opening establishes the existential threat that looms over everything else in the series, even though most characters don't know it yet. We then transition to Winterfell, the ancestral home of House Stark in the north. This jarring shift from supernatural horror to everyday medieval life is intentional, showing us the disconnect between the ancient dangers beyond the wall and the concerns of noble houses. Lord Eddard Stark, called Ned, is the Warden of the North. We see him administering justice by personally executing Will, the deserter from the Night's Watch who fled after encountering the White Walkers. This scene is important for several reasons. First, it establishes Ned's personal code of honor. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Second, it shows us his children watching, learning the harsh realities of leadership. Third, it demonstrates that deserting the Night's Watch is punishable by death, emphasizing the seriousness of that institution. Ned's children present include Robb, his eldest son and heir, Jon Snow, his illegitimate son, Theon Greyjoy, his ward, Bran, his young son eager to witness his first execution, and others. This scene introduces us to the Stark family dynamic and their values of duty, honor, and justice. On the return journey to Winterfell, the group discovers a dead direwolf killed by a stag. The direwolf is the sigil of House Stark, while the stag represents House Baratheon, the royal house. This symbolism foreshadows the conflict between these two houses that will drive much of the season's plot. The direwolf has given birth to 6 pups, one for each of Ned's legitimate children, plus an albino runt for Jon Snow. Despite initial resistance, Ned allows the children to keep the pups. This moment is rich with symbolism and foreshadowing. Jon's albino wolf, Ghost, symbolizes his status as an outsider in the Stark family. Back at Winterfell, we're introduced to more of the Stark family. Catelyn Stark, Ned's wife, is a devoted mother but notably cold toward Jon Snow, whom she sees as a reminder of Ned's infidelity. We meet Sansa, the eldest daughter who dreams of southern courts and princes, and Arya, the tomboyish younger daughter who prefers swords to needlework. We also meet Bran, who loves to climb the walls of Winterfell despite his mother's warnings. This detail will become tragically significant later in the episode. The youngest Stark children, Rickon, is also briefly seen. A raven arrives with news that Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King and Ned's mentor, has died. Additionally, King Robert Baratheon is traveling north to Winterfell. This news disrupts the household and sets the main plot in motion. Ned and Catelyn discuss what Robert's visit might mean. They correctly suspect he'll ask Ned to become the new Hand of the King, essentially the second most powerful person in the Seven Kingdoms. This creates tension because it would mean leaving Winterfell and entering the dangerous political world of King's Landing. The episode then takes us across the narrow sea to the free city of Pentos. Here we meet Viserys and Daenerys Targaryen, the last surviving members of the dynasty that ruled Westeros before Robert's rebellion. Viserys is obsessed with reclaiming the Iron Throne, which he believes is his by right. Daenerys, his younger sister, is timid and clearly under his controlling, abusive influence. We see Viserys preparing Daenerys for a meeting, manhandling her and making clear that he sees her as a tool for his ambitions. They're living as guests of Illyrio Mopatis, a wealthy merchant who has his own interests in their cause. Viserys has arranged for Daenerys to marry Khal Drogo, a powerful warlord who leads a khalasar of 40,000 Dothraki warriors. In exchange, Viserys expects Drogo to provide him with an army to invade Westeros. Back in Westeros, King Robert Baratheon arrives at Winterfell with a massive royal entourage. Robert is loud, overweight, and clearly unhappy despite being king. He greets Ned warmly, showing their deep friendship. Robert is accompanied by his wife, Queen Cersei Lannister, a beautiful but cold woman who clearly has little affection for her husband. Their children include the cruel Prince Joffrey. Also present are Cersei's brothers, Jaime Lannister, called the Kingslayer, and the dwarf Tyrion Lannister, whose sharp wit quickly becomes apparent. Robert asks Ned to take him to the crypts where they can speak privately. In the tombs of Ned's ancestors, Robert reveals his true purpose. He wants Ned to come to King's Landing as Hand of the King. Robert also proposes joining their houses by betrothing Joffrey to Sansa. This proposal puts Ned in a difficult position. A great feast is held to celebrate the king's arrival. During the festivities, we see more character development. Benjen Stark, Ned's brother and a ranger of the Night's Watch, tells Jon that he can't join the Watch yet. Sansa and Joffrey have an awkward but, from Sansa's perspective, promising interaction. Jon Snow bonds with Tyrion Lannister, who tells Jon to wear his bastard status like armor so it can never be used to hurt him. Catelyn receives a message suggesting that Jon Arryn's death wasn't natural but murder, and that the Lannisters were involved. This information creates paranoia and will influence Ned's decision-making going forward. We also see Daenerys' wedding to Khal Drogo. The Dothraki wedding is a violent, chaotic affair. Viserys is pleased with himself, already imagining his conquest of Westeros. Daenerys receives wedding gifts, including dragon eggs that have turned to stone, a symbol of the fallen glory of House Targaryen. She also receives books from Ser Jorah Mormont. We witness the uncomfortable meeting between the nervous Daenerys and the intimidating Khal Drogo. He examines her without speaking, treating her like property he's considering purchasing. Daenerys is clearly terrified, but Viserys is pleased, seeing this as the path to his throne. Bran climbing the walls of Winterfell, as he loves to do. He climbs to a high tower, and through a window witnesses Queen Cersei and her brother Jaime engaged in an incestuous relationship. In a chilling moment, he says, "The things I do for love," and pushes the young boy out of the window, ending the episode on a devastating cliffhanger. Episode 2, start over in Essos. Khal Drogo is moving towards Shadowland with his army. Jorah Mormont asks Daenerys to eat something. Daenerys is struggling and feeling powerless. In the Winterfell, Bran Stark still unconscious after his fall. Cersei is having breakfast with her brother Jaime and Tyrion, discussing Bran's fall from Wall. Tyrion wishes Bran would regain consciousness soon so he could learn the truth. Catelyn hasn't left Bran's bedside in days, and she's absolutely devastated. Nobody knows how Bran fell from Wall except Cersei and Jaime. Cersei comes to console Bran. As Jon prepares to leave for Night's Watch, he comes to say goodbye to Bran and also gives a short sword to Arya as a gift. Arya names her sword the Needle. He also meets Robb for last time. Ned also comes to say goodbye to Catelyn and Bran as he is going King's Landing with Robert. Ned, Sansa, and Arya heading south with King's procession. Ned is uncomfortable in his new role as Hand of the King. Jon meets Ned for the last time, both leaving their home Winterfell. King's procession stops at a place here. Robert gives a letter to Ned mentioning the Daenerys wedding to Khal Drogo. Tyrion is also going with Jon to see the Wall. Back to Winterfell, Maester tells Catelyn there's nothing more they can do. Bran will either wake up or he won't. Here's where things get wild. An assassin comes with Valyrian steel dagger to kill Bran. Catelyn grabs the blade with her bare hands. Bran's direwolf, Summer, tear out assassin's throat. Now Catelyn believes someone wants to kill Bran. Catelyn goes to inspect the window from where Bran fell and finds a golden hair. Catelyn and Maesters examines the Valyrian steel dagger, and she decides to go to King's Landing in secret to warn Ned. In Essos, now Daenerys, feeling comfortable and learning new things from a slave named Dorea, she teaches her techniques to be more active. Daenerys also talk about Dragon Egg. King's procession stays near Trident River. Sansa is spending time with Prince Joffrey. They came across Arya practicing sword fighting with Butcher's Boy. Here, Joffrey starts terrorizing Butcher's Boy. Arya grabs a stick and starts hitting Joffrey to defend her friend. Then Nymeria, Arya's direwolf, bites Joffrey on the arm. Arya hides in fear of being punished and drives Nymeria away from there. Lannister's soldiers find Arya and present her before the king, where Joffrey cleverly lies. Here the decision is taken to kill Nymeria and Butcher's son. Ned sadly killed Nymeria. Here in Winterfell, the Bran regains consciousness. Jon and Tyrion arrive at Castle Black with Jon's uncle Benjen Stark. Ned Stark has arrived in King's Landing and is settling into his new role as the Hand of the King. He attends his first small council meeting. Here we meet Grand Maester Pycelle, Varys, the Master of Whisperers, Peter Baelish, the Master of Coin, and Renly Baratheon, the Master of Laws. Ned is shocked to learn about King's Landing's massive debt. From here, the game of conspiracies for power truly begins. Cersei tends to Joffrey's wounds and teaches him diplomacy. Arya and Sansa argue about the incident near the Trident River. Ned comes to explain to Arya that she should not fight with Sansa, and this is when he learns about Arya's sword. Ned hires Syrio Forel to train Arya in sword fighting. Ned begins to sense the dangers that lie ahead. Catelyn believes that no one knows about her arrival in King's Landing, but Peter's men reach her at the door and secretly take her to Peter, where Varys is also present. When Catelyn asks about the dagger, Peter tells her that Tyrion had won it from him in a bet. The Grand Maester gives Ned a letter that mentions Bran. Peter secretly arranges a meeting between Ned and Catelyn. Ned tells her that Bran has regained consciousness. Ned tells Catelyn that they cannot act against the Lannisters without solid evidence. Catelyn leaves for Winterfell. Cersei and Jaime argue about the assassin who was sent to kill Bran. Robert is constantly indulged in drinking and visiting prostitutes. In Winterfell, Bran regains consciousness, but he will never walk again. Robb asks Bran how he fell from the tower, but Bran says that he remembers nothing. In Essos, Daenerys now feels more powerful. She orders the army to halt. Seeing this, her brother becomes jealous and tries to kill Daenerys, but a Dothraki grabs Viserys with a rope. Daenerys orders the Dothraki not to kill Viserys. Daenerys is learning the Dothraki language when her maid discovers that she is pregnant. The maid informs Jorah Mormont that Daenerys is pregnant. Jon and Tyrion have now reached Castle Black. Jon begins his training with the Night's Watch and easily defeats everyone. Sir Alliser Thorne watches this display with hatred. Tyrion observes Jon's training with Commander Mormont. Commander Mormont gives Tyrion a letter addressed to Jon that mentions Bran. Everyone hates Jon and tries to kill him, after which Tyrion intervenes and tells them to leave Jon alone. Tyrion gives Jon a letter that came from Winterfell. Jon goes to the top of the wall using the lift, where he meets his uncle Benjen. Benjen tells Jon that he is going beyond the wall, where Jon cannot go yet. Only Rangers are allowed to cross beyond the wall. The throne of King's Landing once belonged to Daenerys' father, Aerys II Targaryen, who was known as the Mad King. He was a mad ruler and was killed by Jaime, which is why Jaime is called the Kingslayer. Daenerys realizes that her brother is not worthy of the throne. She wants Khal Drogo to cross the narrow sea so that she can reclaim her father's throne. However, the Dothraki have never crossed the sea before and are afraid to do so. Daenerys always kept the dragon egg she received as a gift with her, hoping that one day dragons would return to this world. Jon Snow is preparing for a new journey. He is still unaware of the dangers beyond the wall. The game of conspiracies has begun in King's Landing. Ned and Catelyn have realized that the Lannisters are behind Bran's fall, but they do not yet know the reason behind it. Cersei and Jaime can go to any extent to keep their illicit relationship a secret. Bran has a strange dream where he sees the three-eyed raven. Just then, Theon Greyjoy comes to take Bran to Robb. This is also the moment when we are introduced to a new character, Hodor. He has been mentally disabled since childhood, but he is extremely strong. He gently lifts Bran in his arms and carries him to Robb. Meanwhile, Tyrion Lannister doesn't travel straight from Castle Black to King's Landing. Instead, he stops at Winterfell. With him is the man who had been recruiting new members for the Night's Watch. Tyrion's real reason for stopping at Winterfell is to design a special saddle for Bran, one that would allow him to ride a horse despite his condition. This moment shows that Tyrion is not just clever, but also genuinely kind-hearted, even though the Starks despise the Lannisters. During his stay, Tyrion also realizes that Catelyn Stark is not in Winterfell. Later, while traveling back to King's Landing, Tyrion stops at an inn for food and a place to spend the night. There, he unexpectedly runs into Catelyn Stark. In front of the lords gathered there, Catelyn accuses Tyrion of trying to murder her son, Bran, and has him taken prisoner. Sansa's handmaid shows her the Iron Throne and tells her that one day, her future child will sit on that throne. At the same time, preparations are underway in King's Landing for the Grand Tournament, and a royal council meeting is in progress. After the meeting ends, Ned Stark asks Grand Maester Pycelle about the death of Jon Arryn, who served as Hand of the King before Ned. Pycelle explains that in his final days, Jon Arryn showed great interest in reading a particular book. Pycelle then hands Ned the book, one that contains detailed records of the kings of the Seven Kingdoms and their children. Ned wants to uncover the truth behind Bran's fall from the tower and Jon Arryn's mysterious death. Peter Baelish, also known as Littlefinger, offers his help. He tells Ned that all the informers in the castle gardens are loyal to Queen Cersei. Peter also advises Ned to send a trusted man to visit the armor, place Jon Arryn frequently visited. Meanwhile, preparations for the tournament continue across the city. Instead of sending someone else, Ned decides to visit the armorer himself. There, he meets a young man named Gendry. Ned soon realizes realizes that Gendry is the illegitimate son of King Robert Baratheon. The tournament finally begins. The first match is between Sir Gregor Clegane, known as the Mountain, and Sir Hugh. Peter tells Sansa that the Mountain is the older brother of the Hound. He also reveals a dark story from their past, how the Mountain once pushed the Hound's face into burning coals, leaving him horribly scarred. King Robert gives the signal to begin the fight. The duel is brutal and merciless. In the end, the Mountain emerges victorious and Sir Hugh is killed. The Dothraki finally arrive at the city of horse lords Vaes Dothrak. As they enter, Viserys Targaryen mockingly calls the Dothraki savages. Hearing this, Daenerys immediately stands up to him and says he has no right to call them savages. This is her army. Later, Daenerys asks Ser Jorah Mormont whether she can truly reclaim her Iron Throne with this force. Jorah explains that the Dothraki are unstoppable in open fields and can defeat almost any army. The army then stops during their stay, Vaes Dothrak. Daenerys invites Viserys to join the feast. Viserys takes this as an insult and in a fit of rage tries to strike Daenerys. But this time, Daenerys does not remain silent. She slaps Viserys and warns him that if he ever lays a hand on her again, she will have his hands cut off. Later, Daenerys speaks to Jorah about what happened. Jorah calmly tells her the truth. Viserys is not fit to be a king and lacks the qualities required to rule. Jon Snow is training the new recruits of the Night's Watch in sword fighting. During this training, we are introduced to a new character, Samwell Tarly. Sam is extremely timid and physically weak. He falls to the ground after the very first strike. Jon steps in to protect him, but this immediately angers Sir Alliser Thorne. In his rage, Alliser orders all the recruits to fight Jon at once. Even then, Jon manages to defeat everyone on his own. As punishment, Alliser assigns Jon the humiliating task of cleaning armor. Later, Jon tells Sam that surviving at the wall is not easy. That night, Jon is standing guard on the wall when Sam joins him. Alliser has deliberately made Sam Jon's partner. During their watch, Sam opens up to Jon and reveals that his father hates him, which is why he was sent to join the Night's Watch. Over time, all the recruits, except one, become Jon's friend. Jon warns everyone not to beat Sam during training. However, one boy refuses to listen. That night, Jon comes with his companions and his direwolf and threatens the boy. After this, no one dares to strike Sam during practice. Seeing this, Sir Alliser Thorne storms toward Jon, grabs him by the collar, and angrily declares that this is no place for games. He then turns to the recruits and demands to know whether they want a cowardly companion or a fearless brother of the Night's Watch. By now, Jon and Sam have become close friends. While they are cleaning the dining hall together, Alliser arrives and begins talking about the terrifying dangers beyond the wall. He warns them that soon more recruits will arrive, and they will be brought before the Lord Commander. From that day on, they will officially be known as Men of the Night's Watch.